There are things you feel that you cannot explain, moments when you know without evidence, thoughts that come before reality, emotions that speak louder than logic. Most people dismiss these moments, call them coincidences, or brush them aside as noise. But you've noticed the pattern. Something within you is waking up. Carl Jung believed that the psyche, when it reaches a certain depth, begins to manifest signs of powers most people never access, not supernatural powers, but psychological truths sharpened by inner confrontation. This video is not here to flatter you. It's here to confront what you've become and to show you what that truly means. If you felt different, more sensitive, more intuitive, more intense, you're not broken. You're evolving. Stay until the end. And write in the comments, I know something in me has changed. What you'll discover here is something few dare to face. In the early 20th century, Carl Jung broke away from Freud, not because he rejected the unconscious, but because he believed it was far deeper and far more sacred than anyone imagined. He saw the human psyche not as a machine, but as a mysterious organism capable of producing symbols, archetypes, visions, and intuitions. In ancient cultures, these were considered signs of initiation, gifts from the divine. But in the modern world, we've pathologized what once was sacred. People who feel deeply are labeled too sensitive. Those who dream vividly are told to stay grounded. Jung called this the modern neurosis, a soul disconnected from its own symbolic language. What you feel may not be illness. It may be evolution. This video explores what happens when your psyche crosses a threshold and begins to operate on a level most people never reach. Not everyone who suffers is awakening, but everyone who awakens has suffered. When your psyche begins to break away from the surface, something ancient stirs. These psychic revelations are not fantasies, they are signs, evidence that your unconscious has matured beyond ordinary perception. If you've experienced even one of these, you're already walking a very different path. The first psychic revelation is the ability to sense meaning before facts appear. You begin to feel something before it manifests. A room feels wrong before anything happens. A person feels heavy before they speak. You don't know why, but you just know. It's not guesswork, it's precognitive perception. Carl Jung called this a function of intuition, a capacity of the psyche to grasp patterns that have not yet fully formed. Most people rely on proof. They need a headline, a statistic, a confirmation from the outside world. But when your unconscious matures, it no longer waits. It perceives the energetic weight of a situation before the facts rise to the surface. You walk into a place and feel danger before the threat shows itself. You meet someone and feel sadness behind their smile. The gift is not about predicting lottery numbers or mystical theatrics. It's about resonance. Your psyche recognizes a structure forming in the unconscious realm and translates it into a signal, sometimes physical, sometimes emotional, sometimes symbolic, but always real. The danger is doubt. You've been trained to ignore this capacity, to favor logic over sensation, to kill the whisper before it speaks. And so, your first task is not to find this power. It's to stop silencing it. That voice, that twinge, that chill on your skin, they're not irrational. They are early echoes of truth. If you've lived your life feeling wrong without evidence, if you've walked away from people who seemed fine but left you drained, you are not paranoid. You are perceptive. And the more you trust this inner radar, the more precise it becomes. When meaning speaks before facts, listen. You are witnessing the first signs of a psyche that no longer needs the world to tell it what is real. The second psychic revelation is the ability to feel what others hide. You no longer hear only what people say. You hear what they avoid. The moment someone smiles, you sense the fear behind it. When they change the subject, you feel the pressure they buried beneath their words. It's not about reading minds, it's about detecting emotional patterns, contradictions, and concealed wounds. This is a psychic sensitivity to the unspoken. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious is always leaking through gestures, tone, micro-expressions, silence. The more attuned your psyche becomes, the less you're fooled by surface-level behavior. You begin to notice where people hesitate, where their body stiffens, where their language shifts. You hear not just the sound, but the fracture behind it. At first, this ability is painful. You'll walk through life realizing that most conversations are veils, most people are performing, most connections are built on pretense. But beneath that disillusionment lies a sacred power, the ability to see what is truly present. It's not about judgment, it's about perception. You no longer take comfort in appearances. You search for the soul behind the role. And sometimes, that soul is trembling. This gift isolates you. People sense that you see them too clearly. They avoid your gaze. They change when you enter the room. But what you must remember is this: the discomfort they feel is not your fault. It is the cost of truth. You are not cruel. You are clear. And clarity is rare. If you've felt cursed by your ability to sense the wounds others deny, understand this: your gift is not meant to control them, but to free you. You can choose who you let in. You can protect your spirit, because you no longer fall for what people say. You feel what they carry, and that changes everything. The third psychic revelation is being visited by symbols that come uninvited, dreams that repeat, numbers that follow you, images that rise from nowhere. You don't summon them, they appear, and they don't leave until you listen. Jung called this the symbolic language of the unconscious, a way your psyche communicates truth when words are too small. These symbols are not random. They are messages coded in metaphor, revealing what your conscious mind refuses to see. A recurring snake in your dreams may reflect suppressed fear or transformation. Seeing the same number again and again might signal alignment or inner urgency. The modern world teaches you to ignore symbols. It worships logic, data, analytics. But the psyche is older than science. It speaks in fire, rivers, blood, and myth. The moment your inner world begins to offer images on its own, not fantasies, not entertainment, but insistent messages, you are entering a deeper layer of consciousness. The mistake is to interpret too quickly. Jung warned that symbols must be contemplated, not solved. You must sit with them. Let them disturb you. Let them echo. Because the more you try to reduce them into explanations, the more you silence their power. When a symbol returns, it means your soul is knocking. Something wants to be integrated. An experience, a truth, a wound. Ignoring the call doesn't make it disappear. It makes it erupt later, in confusion, in obsession, in projection. If your life has started to feel filled with strange coincidences, if the same images haunt your sleep or your solitude, you are not going crazy. You are being initiated. The unconscious has begun to speak in its native tongue. And the question is no longer whether you understand it, but whether you'll listen. You don't need a therapist to interpret your dreams. You need the courage to face them. The fourth psychic revelation is the sense that time no longer moves in a straight line. You start to feel like moments echo each other. You've been here before, not because of déjà vu, but because your soul already recognized what your eyes are just beginning to see. Carl Jung experienced this often. He believed the psyche didn't follow linear time, it moved in cycles, symbols, and returns. When your inner world deepens, so does your perception of time. You sense patterns that stretch across years. Events feel choreographed by something deeper. You meet someone and feel as if you've always known them. You encounter an experience that reflects something from your childhood, not as a memory, but as a mirror. This is the beginning of archetypal time, when the unconscious starts arranging your reality like a story, not a sequence. The more you evolve, the more time bends. Past wounds return in new forms. Old lessons repeat until integrated. And sometimes, you glimpse the future not through visions, but through knowing. You know what's coming not because you guessed, but because something within already lived it. This experience is disorienting. The world tells you that time is linear, cause and effect, step by step. But you feel something else. You sense that the soul dances in spirals, that growth is not upward, but inward. If you've begun to experience moments that repeat with different characters, different forms, but the same core, your psyche is revealing a deeper intelligence. You are not stuck. You are spiraling upward. Through repetition, through return, through recognition. Don't fear the loop. Learn from it. Because when time begins to echo, you're no longer just living, you're remembering. And what you remember is who you truly are. The fifth psychic revelation is the ability to hear silence differently. Noise no longer comforts you. In fact, it feels like an intrusion. You begin to crave silence, not as absence, but as presence. Jung often spoke of the still, small voice that only emerges when the outer world quiets. This is not ordinary silence. It's a field of awareness, a psychic space where your own soul begins to speak. Most people avoid this space. They flood it with sound, with distraction, with stimulation. But you are learning to enter it. And in that space, something changes. You start to hear inner truths, not as thoughts, but as recognitions. You don't think them, you receive them. Silence becomes a mirror. And sometimes, that mirror shows things you're not ready to face. Old grief, suppressed desire, unspoken longing. But it also shows you depth, clarity, purpose. This revelation separates you. You can no longer tolerate superficiality. Small talk drains you. Shallow spaces feel suffocating. You long for depth in others because you've tasted it within. And once you've heard your soul in silence, you can never fully return to noise. This gift can feel like a curse. You may feel isolated, misfit, disconnected. But what you're actually experiencing is presence. Pure presence. The same energy mystics, prophets, and seekers described. If you've found yourself closing your eyes in moments of stillness, if the quiet feels alive, if your best insights come not through effort but surrender, you are not fading, you are aligning. The ability to hear silence is a sign that your psyche has moved beyond surface consciousness. And from that silence, everything begins. The sixth psychic revelation is the collapse of the false self. At some point, your old identity begins to feel like a costume you can't wear anymore. You can no longer pretend to be what the world expects. The labels don't fit. The roles don't satisfy. The masks feel suffocating. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, the slow disintegration of the ego's illusion, and the emergence of the authentic self. It's not a decision, it's a breakdown. The habits that once gave you comfort now exhaust you. The people you once pleased now feel distant. You find yourself withdrawing, not out of fear, but out of necessity. Something within you is shedding layers that no longer serve your truth. This revelation is terrifying because it threatens your sense of control. Who are you if you're not who you pretended to be? Who are you if you stop trying to be understood? These questions are not signs of failure, they are signs of awakening. The collapse of the false self is not a loss, it is a sacred death, a clearing, a return. You begin to realize that you don't need to be someone else to be loved. You need to be fully yourself to be free. This shift is often misunderstood by others. They say you've changed. You seem distant. You're not as fun, not as agreeable, not as easy to manipulate. Good. That means the mask is falling. That means the real you is coming alive. If you found yourself unable to fake it anymore, at work, in relationships, in your own reflection, trust that instinct. You are not becoming selfish. You are becoming whole. The false self was a strategy, a survival mechanism. But your soul is not here to survive. It's here to emerge. And emergence always begins with something breaking. The moment you stop playing a role is the moment your true life begins. The seventh psychic revelation is the return of forgotten truths. There are moments when something ancient stirs inside you. You read a line, and it feels like something you've always known. You hear a truth, and it resonates like an echo from before your birth. Carl Jung believed that the human psyche is not a blank slate, but a vessel carrying the memory of the species. This is the collective unconscious, the place where archetypes, myths, and universal patterns live. When your psyche matures, you begin to tap into that field. You start remembering truths you were never taught. You sense realities your culture never named. You begin to dream symbols that belong to traditions you've never studied. This is not imagination. It is awakening. You are remembering what the world has forgotten. Not through textbooks, but through vibration, through intuition, through depth. These truths are not always easy to carry. They challenge everything you were taught. They question authority. They disrupt comfort. But they also bring you clarity. You begin to see the world not as it pretends to be, but as it actually is, layered, symbolic, spiritual. This revelation can make you feel like a stranger in your own time. You speak truths no one else sees. You feel things others dismiss. You walk through a society that seems asleep while you are waking up. But you are not alone. Throughout history, others have experienced this: mystics, visionaries, outcasts. You are part of a deeper lineage, and the truths that come to you are not yours to hoard. They are yours to live, to embody, to protect. If you've begun to feel like you're remembering something you never learned, trust that pull. It's not fantasy, it's inheritance, and it means your psyche has crossed the threshold. What returns to you now is not new, it is ancient, and it has always belonged to you. The first deeper awakening is the realization that your suffering was a form of initiation. You begin to look back on your past, not with shame or regret, but with clarity. The pain you endured wasn't meaningless. It was shaping something. You start to see that your breakdowns were not failures, they were thresholds. Carl Jung believed that suffering is often the catalyst for individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are beneath the persona. At the time, it felt like chaos. You thought you were falling apart, but now you see the pattern. The moment you lost everything was also the moment your psyche began to whisper. That silence you feared was actually the space where truth could finally speak. Most people run from their pain. They numb it, distract from it, deny it. But you stayed. You endured the fire. And through that fire, something ancient began to emerge. A clearer voice, a deeper intuition, a hunger for what's real. This awakening is not about glorifying pain. It's about understanding its role. Pain breaks the surface. It humbles the ego. It burns away the roles you played so that something raw can appear. If you've found yourself revisiting your darkest moments and discovering meaning in them, you are not romanticizing the past. You are decoding it. You are tracing the architecture of your own rebirth. And that shift changes how you see everything. You stop asking why this happened to you. You start asking what it awakened in you. The moment you see your pain as a doorway, not a prison, you reclaim power. Because now you know what tried to destroy you wasn't just an enemy. It was an invitation. And the one who stepped through it is no longer the same. The second deeper awakening is the collapse of binary thinking. You begin to realize that things are not either or. People are not good or evil. Truth is not black or white. Your psyche starts rejecting the false comfort of categories. Jung taught that the unconscious holds opposites, light and shadow, male and female, creation and destruction. When you awaken, you no longer need things to be clean or simple. You begin to hold paradox. You understand that someone can love you and still hurt you, that you can be strong and still feel afraid, that you can be right and still not see everything. This awakening unravels judgment. You stop labeling people as villains or saints. You begin to see them as mirrors, each reflecting a part of you. The anger you hated in others, it lives in you too. The beauty you admired, also yours. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you whole. Because once you embrace contradiction, you stop chasing purity. You stop pretending that clarity means certainty. You learn to sit in tension without breaking. This is not easy. The mind craves simplicity. The ego wants to be right, but the soul thrives in complexity. If you've found yourself feeling both things at once, love and grief, fear and joy, clarity and doubt, You are not confused. You are evolving. You are stretching beyond the limits of language, beyond the narratives that keep people asleep. And in that stretching, something sacred appears, a deeper form of wisdom, one that doesn't need to win the argument, one that understands silence, one that knows that some truths can only be lived, not explained. You stop asking who's right. You start asking what's real. And what's real is always more than one thing. The third, deeper awakening is the discovery that solitude is sacred, not empty. You no longer fear being alone. In fact, you start seeking it, not to escape the world, but to hear yourself more clearly. Carl Jung often spoke of the inner retreat, the turning inward to find the self beneath the noise. At first, solitude feels like silence. Then, it becomes a sanctuary. You begin to notice that your most profound thoughts, your deepest shifts, your most honest feelings emerge when no one is watching. You realize that connection is meaningful only when it's built from wholeness, not from need. This awakening reveals a hard truth. Most relationships are born from fear of aloneness, not from genuine resonance. And once you taste the richness of your own presence, superficial interactions feel unbearable. You don't isolate to punish yourself. You withdraw to refine yourself. You are building a space where the soul can speak freely, where no masks are required, no performance expected. Others may misunderstand this. They'll say, "You've changed. You seem distant." But what they're really sensing is your absence from the false roles you once played. You are no longer available for pretending. This solitude is not loneliness. It is alignment. In this space, you begin to feel guided. Ideas come unbidden. Emotions move with clarity. Intuition sharpens. You feel watched, not by others, but by something higher. You are returning to your center. And that return changes everything. If you've stopped seeking constant company, if you've found yourself more at home in silence than in noise, you are not disconnecting. You are remembering. And what you're remembering is that your deepest power doesn't come from others. It comes from the self you meet in silence. That self is sacred. The fourth, deeper awakening is the recognition that dreams are messages, not illusions. You stop dismissing your dreams as nonsense. You begin to feel their weight, not as fantasy, but as revelation. Carl Jung built much of his life's work around the idea that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. In your dreams, the psyche speaks without censorship. It shows you what your waking mind resists. At first, they seem chaotic fragments, symbols, strange scenes. But the more you pay attention, the more you see a pattern, a logic beyond logic, a deeper intelligence at work. You dream of places you've never been, people you've never met, and yet they feel familiar. You wake up with emotion before memory. You begin to track the metaphors, the house that keeps changing, the repeated fall, the voice that whispers truth. These are not accidents. They are blueprints. Your psyche is building something beneath the surface, and dreams are its architecture. When you begin honoring your dreams, writing them down, feeling them, listening instead of analyzing, you unlock something primal. You stop trying to decode them like puzzles. You start letting them teach you. And in that shift, the dream world becomes more vivid, more personal, more alive. This awakening reconnects you with ancient wisdom. Cultures once honored dreams as prophecy, initiation, instruction. Now, you do too. If you've begun to dream more intensely, if you wake with a sense of message rather than chaos, it means the veil is thinning. You are no longer just conscious, you are becoming dream-aware. And that awareness bridges two worlds. You don't just live during the day, you live through the night. And in that night, truth comes wrapped in shadow, in symbol, in silence. All it asks is that you stop ignoring it. The fifth, deeper awakening is the moment you stop searching for external validation. You begin to feel a shift in what drives you. Praise no longer satisfies. Approval feels hollow. You stop waiting for someone else to tell you you're enough. Jung believed that the true self does not need validation. It only needs realization. And when that self begins to emerge, the hunger for applause fades. This is not arrogance, it's liberation. You still feel doubt, but it no longer controls you. You still feel fear, but it doesn't define your decisions. You become less interested in being understood and more interested in being true. This awakening can be lonely. You start walking away from people who once praised you because you see the strings attached. You notice how much of society is built on manipulation, perform to belong, shrink to be liked. But you no longer play those games. You speak with integrity even when it shakes the room. You stay quiet even when the silence is misinterpreted. You stop explaining yourself, not because you think you're above others, but because you finally trust your own voice. That voice has been buried under years of noise, criticism, and comparison. But now, it's rising. It's steady. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply is. If you've stopped chasing recognition, if you've found peace in doing what feels right even when no one notices, you are not disappearing. You are maturing. Because the moment your worth becomes self-generated, you become untouchable. You're no longer shaped by approval. You're shaped by purpose. And that purpose is your compass now. The sixth deeper awakening is the awareness that language fails where truth begins. At a certain point in your journey, words begin to feel insufficient. You try to describe what you're experiencing, but nothing fits. The vocabulary you once used to explain your emotions, your thoughts, your revelations, now feels too small. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He often wrote that the most profound truths of the psyche cannot be expressed through language, only approached through symbol, image, or silence. This awakening comes quietly. You find yourself pausing mid-sentence, realizing that what you're trying to share doesn't survive translation. You feel something vast, sacred, destabilizing, but when you speak of it, it shrinks. This is not failure. It is evolution. It means your consciousness is expanding beyond the limits of collective description. It means you are entering direct experience, the kind mystics spoke of, the kind artists try to paint, the kind that remains untouched by explanation. This is why you begin to value silence, not as emptiness, but as reverence. It's why you're drawn to music that doesn't have lyrics, to images that can't be named. It's why you hesitate before answering questions about who you are. You are becoming something language cannot contain. And that makes you difficult to categorize. People may say you're vague, distant, hard to read. Let them. What you're protecting is sacred. You no longer use words to impress you, use them to point. And when words fail, you let them. Because you've learned that some truths must remain whole, untouched by definition. If you've felt frustrated trying to explain what you've seen inside yourself, stop trying. Feel it. Honor it. Live it. Because what cannot be spoken still shapes everything. The seventh deeper awakening is the moment you begin to feel watched by something within. You start to sense a presence that isn't external and isn't imagined. It's not paranoia. It's not fear. It's awareness. A gaze from inside that observes everything you do. Carl Jung called this the emergence of the self, the central archetype of the unconscious that watches, waits, and holds the whole of who you are. This presence is not judgmental. It is not a critic or a parent. It's deeper than that. It is the part of you that never forgot, never fragmented, never lied. And as you awaken, you begin to feel it, watching your choices, not to punish, but to invite you back into integrity. You become less reactive, not because of discipline, but because you are being witnessed. Every thought, every intention, every movement of the soul seen by something ancient inside you. This is not the same as guilt. Guilt is egoic. This is spiritual accountability. You feel it strongest in quiet moments, when no one else is there. And that's how you know it's real. This inner gaze does not control you. It aligns you. It reminds you. It asks, is this who you are? Is this what you came here to become? And slowly, your answer begins to shift. You stop acting for others. You start aligning with that inner eye. The self becomes your compass. And that shift is irreversible. It changes how you speak, how you move, how you pray. You feel connected not just to yourself, but to something beyond the self, a vast intelligence that includes you, but also transcends you. If you've begun to feel like you're being quietly observed by something within, something still, something sacred, don't run from it, listen to it, because that presence is not your enemy, it is your witness. And the more you live in harmony with that gaze, the more you become who you were always meant to be. Awakening is not complete until it becomes embodied. Insight without integration fades into memory. These embodied practices are not routines, they are rituals of alignment. Each one invites you to live what your psyche already knows. If your inner world has changed, your outer life must follow. What begins in the unconscious must be carried into the flesh. The first embodied practice is to create a daily space for conscious solitude. Your psyche cannot integrate its deeper movements in chaos. Insight is fragile in noise. To ground what you've received, you need space, not just silence, but intentional solitude. This isn't the absence of others. It's the presence of yourself. Choose a place where the world cannot reach you. A chair by the window, a quiet room at sunrise, a bench under the sky, and once a day, return there. Not to think, not to produce, but to be, to listen. To allow what stirs beneath the surface to speak. Carl Jung often withdrew to his tower in Bollingen, a space built not for isolation, but for contact with the self. You don't need stone walls to do the same. What matters is consistency, that your nervous system begins to recognize this moment, this space, as sacred. At first, your thoughts will shout, "Let them!" Then they will slow. Then they will dissolve. In that stillness, the psyche begins to process what the ego cannot. Dreams unfold their meaning. Emotions settle into form. Questions shift into understanding. This practice is not optional. Without solitude, your insights remain intellectual. But when solitude becomes ritual, those insights become cellular. You walk differently, speak differently, see differently. Others may notice. They may say, "You seem distant." Let them. You are not retreating. You are anchoring. You are creating a container where what is invisible can take root. And over time, that root will grow into something unshakable. If you've begun to feel scattered, overwhelmed, or disconnected from your own depth, begin here. Create one space, one moment, one ritual, and let it become your temple. Because solitude is not loneliness. It is presence refined, uncluttered, and whole. Return to it daily. It will return you to yourself. The second embodied practice is to write without editing, to listen through the pen. Your psyche speaks in fragments, symbols, whispers. To capture its language, you must silence the editor. Let your hand move before your mind catches up. This is not journaling for clarity. It is writing for revelation. Carl Jung called this active imagination, the process of dialoguing with the unconscious through spontaneous expression. Sit down with paper and pen, not a keyboard, not a screen. Let the texture slow you. Begin with a phrase, a question, or nothing at all, and then write, without stopping, without judging, without correcting. Let the words spill, even if they don't make sense, especially when they don't. This is not performance. It is excavation. You will be surprised by what emerges. A sentence you didn't expect. A memory you'd buried. A feeling you hadn't named. This is your psyche stepping forward. Let it speak. Do this daily, or when you feel a pressure inside a fog, a dissonance, an ache you can't explain. The pen is your bridge. It allows the unseen to cross into visibility. Over time, patterns will emerge. Words will repeat. Symbols will surface. Don't rush to interpret. Let the page become your mirror. The point is not understanding. The point is expression. Because expression moves energy. It liberates what's stuck. It clears space inside you. You'll know this practice is working when your body relaxes as you write, when emotion follows words, when silence follows release. This isn't therapy. It's ritual. If you fear what might come, you're close. If you cry without knowing why, you're closer. This is not for anyone else to read. It is not for your future self. It is for the one inside you now who needs a voice. That voice may be raw. Let it be. It may be broken. Let it be. Because what is written without permission is often what's truest. And what's truest always heals. The third embodied practice is to walk without destination and let your body lead. Your body is older than your mind. It carries memory in its muscles, its breath, its instincts. When you walk without a plan, without a path, without a goal, you begin to hear what it remembers. This is not about fitness. It is about embodiment. Carl Jung often emphasized the connection between movement and unconscious integration. Thought alone cannot carry transformation. You must feel it, move it, walk it. Choose a time, early morning, twilight, moonlight, when the world is quiet. Leave your headphones behind. Don't bring a podcast. Don't make a call. Walk slowly, without purpose, without rush. Let your feet decide where you turn. Let your senses pull you. Notice the trees, the cracks in the sidewalk, the sound of your breath. This is not mindfulness. It is surrender. Over time, something strange begins to happen. Emotions rise as you move. Memories return. Images flicker. Your pace matches your state. You may walk faster when you're angry, slower when you're grieving, lighter when something clicks. That is your psyche moving through the body. Let it. This practice grounds you. It brings you out of your head and into your form. You realize that healing isn't just in thought, it's in motion. And sometimes your body knows where to go before your mind does. If you feel stuck, don't solve. Walk. If you feel disconnected, don't scroll. Walk. If you feel something rising but don't know what it is, walk until it speaks. You don't need a therapist to understand your process. Sometimes you need a sidewalk, a forest, a street lamp, a breath. This practice will not give you answers. It will make you receptive to them. And in that receptivity, the body becomes a compass. Let it lead. It remembers what you've forgotten. The fourth embodied practice is to speak aloud what you've never dared to say. Truth unspoken becomes tension, energy trapped in the chest, emotion disguised as fatigue. If your psyche has been showing you new dimensions of who you are, but your voice has not caught up, you will feel the split. Speaking is not just for others, it is for integration. Carl Jung believed that consciousness requires articulation not for performance, but for coherence. You cannot become what you will not declare. This practice begins in private, alone, safe. No audience, no pressure. Go to a space where you will not be interrupted. Stand or sit, but open your chest. Breathe and say what has been buried, out loud, slowly. Let the words tremble if they must. Say what you never said, the thing you denied, the feeling you suppressed, the anger, the love, the grief. You are not doing this for closure. You are doing it for contact. When you speak your truth into sound, your nervous system hears it, your body hears it, and something clicks. You realize you've been waiting not for permission, but for resonance. You don't need to say everything, just one thing. One sentence that costs you something. One truth that has weight. Afterward, notice your body. Notice the breath, the looseness, or the tears. This is not performance. It's presence. You are reclaiming your own frequency. And over time, you'll stop needing an audience to feel real. You'll feel real in your own voice. And that voice will no longer echo someone else's expectations. It will echo your essence. Speak, even when your voice shakes, especially then. Because what is spoken aloud, even in solitude, begins to live. And what begins to live no longer controls you from the dark. The fifth embodied practice is to touch the earth with bare hands. Awakening can disembody you. You begin to live in symbols, in thought, in vision. But the psyche needs grounding. Carl Jung often wrote of returning to physical work, to nature, to the hands. There is wisdom in the soil, in the bark of trees, in the chill of water. To integrate the unseen, you must touch the seen. Choose a simple act. Plant something. Sweep a floor. Wash a stone. No technology. No multitasking. Use your hands. Feel texture, resistance, cold, warmth. This is not about productivity. It is about presence. When your hands engage with the world, your body comes back into time. And time brings integration, the energy that rises in dreams, in solitude, in silence. It needs to be discharged, released, felt, not just emotionally, but physically. That's what this practice does. You begin to sense yourself as part of something larger. The dirt under your nails connects you to ancestors. The rhythm of your hands calms the mind. You remember that consciousness does not only live in the head, it lives in the fingertips. If you've been overwhelmed by insight, overstimulated by visions, or emotionally saturated, go outside, kneel, dig, clean, move. Let the body re-enter the world it evolved to belong to. And in that re-entry, something softens. The mind quiets. The nervous system resets. You remember simplicity. You remember cycles. You remember breath. This is not spiritual bypassing. It's spiritual grounding. Your awakening is not complete until your body feels it. And your body does not awaken through thought. It awakens through touch, through sensation, through earth. Let your hands remind you that you are not a floating mind. You are a living soul in a breathing body. And that body needs contact. The sixth embodied practice is to bless your past from a higher state of consciousness. What you reject from your past still holds power over you. What you bless becomes integrated. This practice is not about romanticizing trauma or forcing forgiveness. It is about recognition, seeing your past not from the wounded self who lived it, but from the awakened self who has emerged from it. Carl Jung taught that the shadow is not what we've done, but what we have not yet made conscious. To bless your past is to make it conscious, not to excuse it, but to reclaim it. Sit with an old version of yourself, a time you regret, a choice that haunts you. Instead of analyzing it, bless it. Speak to it from the self you are now. Say, "Thank you for surviving." Say, "You are doing your best." Say, "I see you, and I choose to carry the lesson, not the shame." This is not sentimental, it is alchemical. When you bless your past, you transform its grip. You stop identifying with the pain, and you start integrating the wisdom. Over time, you begin to feel a softening, not just emotionally, but spiritually. That moment you hated now becomes sacred. That failure becomes fuel. That loss becomes opening. This is not a one-time ritual, it's a practice. Whenever a memory rises with heaviness, bless it. Not to bypass it, to rewire it, to bring it into the light of who you are now. If you've been carrying guilt, bitterness, or frozen moments that drain your power, begin here. Blessing is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the recognition that nothing in your story was wasted, only misunderstood. And now that you understand, you no longer need to carry the wound. You carry the wisdom, and with that wisdom, your past no longer defines you. It serves you. The seventh embodied practice is to align your environment with your emerging self. Your surroundings are not neutral. They echo who you've been and influence who you become. If your space still reflects your old identity, your transformation will always feel incomplete. Carl Jung often spoke of symbols as containers for psychic energy. Your room, your clothes, your rituals, these are symbols. They carry frequency. This practice is about alignment, not aesthetic. Alignment. Look around you. What in your space feels heavy, outdated, irrelevant? What no longer matches the version of you that's awakening? It might be objects, habits, routines, even scents. Begin small. Rearrange a corner. Remove what holds old energy. Introduce symbols of your current self, even if no one else understands them. This is not about impressing others. It's about mirroring your truth. Light a candle before you write. Place a stone where you meditate. Let your clothes reflect how you feel, not how you're expected to appear. When your environment matches your frequency, your nervous system relaxes, your clarity sharpens, your body feels safe to expand. This is not about perfection, it's about coherence. Over time, this coherence spills into every layer: your calendar, your digital space, your conversations. You begin to notice where you've been saying yes to, what no longer fits, and you stop. You clear. You edit. You simplify. And in that process, your life becomes a reflection, not a performance. If your inner world has changed, but your outer world has remained the same, you will feel split. But if you align them even subtly, you will feel peace, not comfort, not ease, peace. A quiet sense that you are living honestly. Begin with one object, one ritual, one act of rearrangement, and let that act ripple outward. Because when your space becomes sacred, your psyche can finally rest. And from that rest, you rise. You've heard what few are willing to accept, that your psyche is not a machine to be optimized, but a living mystery to be revealed. That your deepest perceptions, your strange intuitions, your hunger for silence, your rejection of shallow noise, none of these are flaws. They are signs, evidence that something ancient within you has begun to awaken. These revelations were never meant for the masses, not because you are special in some arrogant way, but because you are willing to suffer through what others numb. You are willing to question what others worship. You are willing to break because you know something more honest lives on the other side of the fracture. Carl Jung didn't offer formulas. He offered mirrors. And if you've listened this far, it means one of those mirrors reflected something in you that you could no longer deny. You are no longer trying to become someone. You are trying to return to someone, the one you buried beneath years of approval, distraction, and fear. That one is rising. But insight is not enough. Vision must become practice. Power must become form. That is why you were given 7 embodied ways to live what you've seen. These aren't techniques. They are acts of alignment. And each one's silence, movement, writing, blessing, speaking, grounding, cleansing. They are not accessories to awakening. They are the terrain of awakening. And still, there is one more truth. You are not done. Every threshold you cross leads to another. Every revelation dissolves into a deeper mystery. And that is not a problem to solve, it is a rhythm to surrender to. Your soul is not looking for a finish line. It is looking for coherence, wholeness, integrity. And the more you listen to that pull, the more your life will begin to rearrange itself. People will fall away. Old dreams will lose their flavor. But what remains will be real. If you felt seen in this journey, write in the comments, "I am ready to embody what I've remembered." That is the statement of someone who has stopped collecting information and started transforming. And if this message spoke to you deeply, silently, unmistakably, then this channel exists for you. Subscribe to Shadow Compass, not for entertainment, not for content, but for reflection, for return. For the moments when the world becomes too loud and you need a place where truth still whispers. You've already begun. Now walk it fully. The psyche remembers. The body knows. The soul is watching.